And we return here on the Cox 11 Sports Report. I'm now joined by Rod Johnson of VirginiaPreps.com, state football editor. Thanks for stopping by, Rod.
Absolutely not a problem.
And this year, another exciting season of high school football in the area. What senior, and there's a ton of them playing college football somewhere next year, raised his stock the most, do you think, this year?
I think you'd have to start with Devontae Walker at Salem. I mean, I think he had a solid junior season, and teams were paying attention to him. But I think the way he exploded in his senior season with 30-plus touchdowns and numerous 200-yard games, I think that really raised his stock a lot and got him on a lot of boards that maybe he wasn't heading into the season.
And he kind of flew under the radar a little bit because his quarterback, Bucky Hodges, got the Player of the Year in the Beach and really got much of the attention for them.
Yeah, and I think the Salem defense got a lot of attention as well. The run game was solid last year, but I think Devontae really improved himself both speed-wise and strength-wise and became a guy that most of the 1AA schools in the state were looking at.
Now, what teams surprised you with prospects to watch out for, not just this year, but for the future, that really kind of came out of nowhere to you?
I think Lakeland was one of those teams that we've seen growing a little bit over the last couple of years with Coach Glenwood Farabee, but the real explosion was this year with Raekwon Johnson and Antonio Jefferson and Anaquan Peterson, right. I think that's a team that returns a lot of those guys. They're going to start threatening a little bit more. Now that they've had a little bit of success, we should see them jump up a little bit higher.
Before we take a look at the players of the year in each district, anybody kind of not one of those top contenders got some teams to keep an eye on?
I'd look at the Warwick Raiders. I think that Josh Butler at quarterback is a dynamic playmaker, and then running back Cardon Johnson has already gotten some looks from the Virginias and the Virginia Techs and some of the ACC schools. So that's a guy who I would consider a top-level threat for a team that, you know, could be on the rise as well.
Now, in the past month, the districts have made their Player of the Year picks by the coaches in the Beach, the Eastern, the Southeastern, and the Peninsula. Let's take a look at some of those picks, starting off with the Beach District, Rod. And you can assess each player's college recruitment and what they've done this year. Starting off in the Beach, you got junior quarterback, Offensive Player of the Year, Bucky Hodges. He had 2,577 yards of offense, 35 total touchdowns, only 6 interceptions. And Eli Harold of Ocean Lakes, committed to University of Virginia, 18 total touchdowns on offense and 15 sacks on defense.
Well, I think Eli was one of our top-rated players in the state, maybe the #1 player in the state this year as far as college potential goes. He's a kid that got looks from everybody across the nation. Hodges is going to be a kid that a year later will get that same type of attention, unlimited potential. We'll definitely see attention from SEC schools, ACC schools, Big East, with everybody looking for big quarterbacks that have dual threat ability. Hodges is going to be a kid that just potentially is through the roof recruiting-wise.
Over in the Eastern District, Mike Tyson, no, you're not saying double. He was that good. Offensive Player of the Year and Defensive Player of the Year for Lake Taylor, playing wide receiver and defensive back, 31 catches for 623 yards, 9 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions on defense. He hasn't made his college choice yet.
No, and it'd be interesting to see not only which college he chooses, but where he ends up playing. I think he's got potential to be a wide receiver or defensive back. I like him a little bit more on the defensive side of the ball, which I think is where most of the colleges are recruiting him. You get nice length and you get a kid who's willing to be physical in your backfield, defensive backfield. So he's got a shot to be one of those definitely ACC level kids.
Over in the Southeastern District, there were so many good running backs. You couldn't just take one for Player of the Year. They took co-players of the year. J.C. Coleman of Oscar Smith, committed to the Virginia Tech Hokies, and Raekwon Johnson, the Lakeland who you touched on earlier, coming back next season. Coleman had 1,413 yards rushing, 17 touchdowns, and Johnson with 2,247 yards and 28 total touchdowns. Yeah,
and you can't really argue with either of those guys. Johnson was the impact player for Lakeland's team, not expected to play quarterback this season, but stepped in for Zach Super and accounted for over 3,000 yards of offense. And then Coleman is a kid whose reputation has been well established for the last couple of years and certainly did nothing to hurt himself this year. Fast kid, going to be a great addition for the Hokies.
And the Defensive Player of the Year in the Southeastern District was a junior, Charles Clark of Kings Fork. He'll be back next year. He's already got some in-state offers from Virginia and Virginia Tech, among others.
Yeah, I think he's another one of those kids that's a big name in the recruiting circles, definitely going to get at least some SEC looks, should have offers from most of the colleges in the ACC and throughout the Mid-Atlantic. When you're looking for a tall cornerback and a kid with good length, Clark's going to be the #1 guy around here.
Over in the Peninsula District, it's hard to argue with Donnell Lewis of Woodside. Led a 10-0 regular season with 1,490 total yards, 14 touchdowns, 7 rushing, 7 passing. And for Phoebus, the Defensive Player of the Year, Justin Boombox Lyles, more tackles than anybody else in Hampton Roads.
Well, I think two kids that really built upon leadership. Lewis was a kid whose team went undefeated, and he was clearly the leader of that program. Lyles was the leading tackler on a defense that routinely ranks among the top 5, 6 in the state.
And we'll get you out on this, Rod, and thank you for coming by. Players to watch for next year as possible Player of the Year candidates in each district. Let's start off with the Beach and the Eastern.
I would definitely start with Quinn Blanding at Bayside, potentially the best player in the state, and he'll only be a junior next year. One of those kids, unlimited type of potential. Jalen Holmes over at Lake Taylor is going to rank really highly because he's such a physical force, long kid, going to develop maturity-wise over the next couple of years and be a major force. Zach Jones, as we saw in the Battlefield game, is already one of the most electric kids in the state. And then Tony Pittman leading the Phoebus ground game is certainly one of those kids that can do everything with the ball in his hands.
No surprises. Teams like Phoebus, Oscar Smith, Lake Taylor, Bayside, they're used to winning, and they got guys coming back that will keep them winning.
Yeah, and it doesn't look like they're going to slow down anytime soon.
Well, thank you for coming by.
Absolutely.
That's Rod Johnson. Check him out on virginiapreps.com. And we're out of time here on the Cox 11 Sports Report. We thank all the hard-working people here at Cox Channel 11, and keep it right here all season long as we follow the state championships next week on Cox Channel 11.